So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the third session in our Policy and Practice Exchange series. My name is Helen Stark, and I'm your host for today's session. For those who don't know me, I'm the Senior Policy Officer for Ageing and Aged Care at Local Government New South Wales. I'm part of the Social and Community Policy team here at Local Government New South Wales. And our role is to be a strong voice for local government by representing councils in policy and funding debates and supporting our member councils to deliver better outcomes for their communities. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the many lands that we're meeting on today for our session. I'm here on Gadigal land in the Sydney CBD, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and future. And I also acknowledge any Aboriginal colleagues who are here today. So thank you to everyone for joining us today. This session is part of the series that brings together providers from different regions to share ideas and experiences, to space to hear from a broad range of aged care providers, to swap practical solutions, learn from each other and use what we see on the ground to influence policy for older people. The Policy and Practice Provider Exchange series is brought to you by the sector support and development partner organisations across New South Wales. So there's 4 of us, including the Western Sydney Community Forum, Inner Sydney Voice, Burrigan Jargon Limited, and also obviously Local Government New South Wales. So today's session is really focused on councils delivering aged care services in rural New South Wales, where they're sometimes the only provider or one of a few providers in their area. While the initial focus was on the Commonwealth Home Support Program, in fact, 2 of our councils online today also provide supported home services. So I've asked them to talk about all of the services that they provide. So today we'll hear about council's experiences of delivering CHSP and support at home in the context of current aged care reforms and how they're navigating the challenges. Hoping that our councils will share some unique stories in managing these challenges, for example, with the current fuel crisis. Before I introduce the panellists, I'd just like to talk a little bit about how the session will run. We'd like it to be interactive, so I encourage you to contribute to the conversation. So you can do this at any time by clicking the raise hand button on your device to join a queue. We will then invite you to share through speaking on camera. Or if you prefer, you can type your question or comment in the Q&A, which we'll read out on your behalf. And we'll try to get through as many questions as we can. Just to also let you know that the session is being recorded. Although we won't actually see your video, if you raise your hand to contribute, your voice will be recorded. If you don't feel comfortable with this, you're welcome to submit questions in the Q&A, which can also be done anonymously. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our 3 panellists. Just before I do that, I wanted to show a map of New South Wales showing where our 3 councils are located. So I'll just wait for the map. As you can see, they're in our councils are located, one in the north, one in the south, and one in the central west area of New South Wales. So now turning to our panellists. Our first panellist today is Kim McLean. Kim is the Coordinator of Ageing Services at Orange Shire Council. Kim is also CHSP Sector Support and Development Officer for the Central West New South Wales region. Welcome, Kim, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Helen. It's a pleasure.
Next up is Jess from Uralla Shire Council. Jess is manager of community care at Uralla. And Jess is actually in transit between parks and back home. So she has kindly agreed to join us in transit. Thanks for joining us today, Jess.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
And thirdly, I'd like to introduce Amanda Lewis. Amanda is Coordinator of Community Services at Snowy Valleys Council. Thank you for joining us today, Amanda.
Thank you for the invitation. Hello, everybody.
So thank you guys for joining today. And I'd like really to start by asking each of you to describe your aged care services in your area and tell us a little bit about your service and I guess your council area. So maybe Kim can start.
Sure. Thanks, Helen. So Orange is in the centre around about the centre of New South Wales. It's about 3.5 hour drive from Sydney, heading west over the Blue Mountains. It has an elevation of about 860 above sea level, so it can get quite cold. So that's something we bear in mind with our service as seniors who sometimes hibernate through the winter, which is not good for anyone. It certainly has its 4 seasons, population of around about 45,000. And we're a lot of rural farms. Our history is based on orcharding. It's a very fertile area around Orange with Mount Canobolas, dormant Mount Canobolas. And so for that reason, it was lots of orchards in the area, now moved to more hospitality, wineries, and also we have Newmont Gold Mine, about 15 minutes out of town, which has brought a lot of prosperity to the town as well. Orange is also proving to be popular as a health specialist area, drawing from the western area of New South Wales as well, coming into Orange. We have a lot of specialists in Orange, and seniors are sort of relocating to this area as well because of those senior services, those medical services. It's also a training area for the different specialist areas. So it's proving to be popular. Our council has about 840 staff, and we have I think a rather large community services sector. We look after disability, youth, migrant services, children's services, as well as the ageing services. And through the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing, we're approved to deliver CHSP services of meals, social support individual, social support group, transport, and home maintenance. So we've been delivering those services for a number of years now, we've been back through all the hack days and continuing to deliver these services. So that's a bit of a snapshot of Orange.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, Kim. I might go to Amanda next.
Thank you, Helen. So, as Helen mentioned, my name is Amanda. I'm the Coordinator of Community Services for the Snowy Valleys Council. So the Snowy Valleys Council came about 10 years ago when the former Tumbarumba Shire and Tumut Shire councils were merged together. So as you saw from the map, we have the largest footprint of the councils represented today. But we only have about 14,500 to 15,000 residents within that larger footprint. So just a bit of an overview, we're split into 2 main areas, so Tumut and Tumbarumba. So we're both basically timber towns, so large timber mills, a lot of staff working at both of those mills. And we both are housing people who are working on the Snowy 2.0 project at the moment. So there's a lot of people in and around town who are coming in working on those projects, which is very good for both communities. We have a fairly decent sized community services section within council. And in that section, we have children's services, although all those are based in Tumbarumba. We have all the library services based across the whole Shire and the ageing services. So for that, I'm responsible for all of the ageing services. So we have Tumut District Community Transport, which is based in Tumut, and they cover the areas of Tumut, Adelong and Talbingo, which is the northern part of the Shire. And they have been a CHSP service provider, or the old hack days, like Kim mentioned, for just under 40 years. Tombaromba Community Transport is based in Tomba, here where I am, and we cover Tombaromba, Cancoban, Rosewood and Gingellic all the way down to the Victorian border. And again, that service with the multi-service outlet has been in operation for about 38 years. So we don't just have transport, we provide a range of services. So we do Meals on Wheels, domestic assistance, social support, respite, home modifications, home maintenance, and we are a supporter home package provider too. And we provide those services across the whole Shire. So just thinking about the distance, if somebody wanted to drive from the northerly part of the Shire to the southerly part of the Shire, it would take around 4.5 hours to make that trip. So we have a big distance to cover. A lot of our clients live in the town area, which is good. However, we do have a large number of clients who live in the outlying areas and the small villages, which can pose a problem, obviously, because of the distances that we've got to cover. So, yeah, that's our little Shire.
So little. Thank you, Matt. And I'll go now to Jess.
Thank you, Helen. So Uralla is the baby shire of the three today. We cover just over 3,000 square kilometres, with the LGA has about 6,000 people in it, and the township itself has about 3,000. So we have the towns of Kentucky, Kingston, Bundarra, Invergowrie and Uralla all within our LGA. However, we service outside of our LGA as well. We're sort of between Armidale and Tamworth, so we're sort of out near country music where it's quite hot. Armidale's quite cold. We had insane snowstorms last year as an example of how up and down the weather can be in our area. There's about 10% of our population actually identifies as Aboriginal, so they are quite a big part of our service. We have around 680 clients across all of our areas of service at our program. Uralla Shire Council has about 150 staff. About nearly 50 of them work under me at the Tablelands Community Support and Tablelands Community Transport. We do community transport for CTP and CHSP. We also do support at home. We've got about 85 packages currently and growing. We do a bit of NDIS, but we are sort of moving out of that because there are enough services in the area to meet those needs. And for CHSP, we do group and individual social support, allied health, transport, Meals on Wheels, domestic assistance, personal care, nursing, in-home and community respite, equipment and products, and home maintenance and repairs. So we do pretty much all the different CHSP services that are available. We also service Walker, Gyra and Armidale as part of our service provision. So Armidale's quite a large town, and we do quite a large amount of their aged care service as well. So yeah, so that's kind of Uralla is very much a farming town, and the whole region really is quite well known for its farming. It is becoming more of a professional space and has become very known for its arts spaces as well. So yeah, it's sort of evolving over time, slowly but surely. And yeah, so that's Uralla.
Thank you, ladies. And I might add too that you also have a small residential aged care facility.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Don't you? Yeah. So
yes, we do. And we're about to expand up to 50 beds. We're at about 35 now, so we're about to do a renovation.
So interesting to hear the differences and also the similarities that those core services, the CHP services of meals, social support and transport being across all three. I'd like to sort of delve a little bit more into what it means to be a council delivering services in rural areas. So next question is, are you the only CHS provider in your town, or the only one with an office in the town? And how does that actually play out? And does it mean you need to be more flexible in how you deliver services? So maybe I can start with Amanda.
So thanks for that. So I have got some notes here. So we are the only service provider based in Tumbarumba with an office here. So we're the only local provider. We do have a couple of other service providers that come in from Tumut and Wagga. However, because we're the only local provider, this means that clients and family members or anyone who needs to speak to us can access us every day, 5 days a week. We're here 5 days a week. Our office here in Tumbarumba is located inside the Visitor Information Centre, which is front and centre at the end of the main street. So we're really visible, we're easily accessible for people to come in. We only have a small staff here in Tumbarumba, so there's myself and I have an admin officer. So the two of us man the office the 5 days of the week. In Tumut, it's basically the same. We're the only community transport service provider in the town. However, there is another service provider that offers community transport services, but only for their support at home clients. So we're the only CHSP provider funded there. Again, our office is located in a wonderful location. We're located right inside the library. So we get a lot of people popping in and seeing us, just saying hello when they're coming in to see the library staff, which means we're easily accessible for clients and family members in the Tumut area as well. This helps with clients when they're transitioning to the support at home, because often they want to have a chat, they want to talk to somebody about how the process works. And because we're right there, it's easy for them to come and see us. They don't really need to make an appointment, and we can talk them through the process. So in Tumut, because I'm based in Tumbarumba, I work out of that office 1 day of the week. So I have two admin officers who are local ladies who work in the office to keep that running for us the rest of the time. So ultimately, being in small communities and the main or only service provider really helps us to have strong connections to the clients and the family members. Because we have small numbers of population in the towns, we often know who these people are. These people may be friends of ours, they're relatives sometimes. Obviously not for me. You can tell that I wasn't born and brought up here. I came in from the UK 25 years ago. But yeah, it just means we've got that connection. So we know sometimes intimate details about clients. We know their children's names, their grandchildren's names. Sometimes we're involved in the same interest groups as the clients or their clients' families. So it means that we are able to offer a more personal service that helps us to provide the strong service that clients are looking for. And it instills a great deal of trust, really, into the clients and the families, and they know that we're there for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's really good to hear. Let's perhaps ask Jess now for her response.
Yes. So we're the only aged care service based in Uralla. We do have other services come in, but they are based in Sydney. So they have some staff up here, but they aren't actually based here. So if you want to speak to the staff, they are in Sydney. So their understanding of the area is quite limited. So we find there can be quite a lot of frustration in that for the clients. So they do prefer to go with locals that they can come and knock on the door and actually sort of see you and have a conversation. We do prioritise people in Uralla for our services. Our CHSP funding, unfortunately, is heavily geared in the wrong areas of service provision for our community. So we've got quite a large amount for group social and things like that. And what's actually needed in the community is domestic assistance and personal care and those sorts of things, home maintenance and things. So that's what people are looking for. Unfortunately, our funding, we're quite heavily capped out in those areas. So we do have our books closed at the moment because we don't have enough flexibility in our funding to actually focus on those areas. So that's something that we're really working on with the department to try and get them not to give us more money, just to move the allocations around so that we can more effectively service our community. Because at the moment, there's a lot of people out there waiting for services that can't get them based on where our funding sits at the moment. And we do have to get quite creative with that. We have some people in our LGA that live over an hour away from the office and nobody else will service them for the things that they need. So to drive an hour for one domestic assistance service is very difficult. We've been able to put together a group out in that community as well. So a staff member can go out there, provide the domestic assistance, then go and run the group and then come back. So we do a lot of flexible concepts around where our direct support workers go and how that gets implemented in order to meet the variety of needs for those sort of really rural townships, the small ones. So our council elected to keep the services in place. When I came in, they were running at quite a large deficit and there'd been a missing element of oversight at the time. In terms of what was happening with the funding and how it was being utilised. We're turning all that around now, and the council has elected to focus really strongly in this area because we do have an ageing population. So that's been really, really great in terms of making sure that we are still meeting the needs of our community. But yeah, it's we're going through a whole overhaul at the moment, especially with support at home and the other things in place to try and make sure that we can make it financially viable. Because with other services coming in and there's third-party services coming in and things, and there's a lot of confusion around what's happening. There's a lot of very confused seniors as well who all tend to come to us for that communication because talking on the phone's not super functional in that space. So yeah, so we have a large office with community rooms and things like that. We're located behind the old courthouse, so everyone knows where we are. And it's a purpose-built building, so it's really, really great. We can put on a lot of different functions and things like that for the community. So we try and be as involved as possible across those areas to keep that information flowing for everyone as they come through.
Thanks, Jess. And yes, it's certainly true that councils are often, and not just in rural areas, the first port of call for older people looking for information about aged care services. So I can certainly understand the important role that you play. Kim, I'll ask you the same question, but also maybe if I could ask you to comment on, as we know, a lot of councils have decided to step away from providing CHP services, and perhaps, you could talk about what the factors are that meant your council has decided to keep providing these services.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. I was just resonating with what Jess said, sort of, the members of the community coming in and asking questions, sort of, we're almost, looked like we're a pop-up shop for to help seniors navigate the aged care referral space and assessment space that we're permanently popped up. Our community services centre it's situated with the council precinct next to the library, museum and gallery, and our Choices at Home service, which delivers our CHSP services, is in close proximity, and as our community garden as well, which acts as a social support outing for our senior activities. But we are not the only provider in town. We have a presence in town and a high profile as the local council, which provides sort of numerous services and tries to answer any questions that comes its way, really. There are other providers that are located in Orange as well. And as we are also funded for sector support and development, we've got good relationships with those, but also supporting other providers across the region too. And we've got a support at home directory under sector support and development of all those providers that are not only located in Orange, but can deliver services across Orange as well. So there is a good choice services. We've sort of, to help us be more flexible, we've had to really support our volunteers and with the aged care reforms as well, with the training, because we wouldn't be able to operate without our volunteers. We have our Choices at Home service has about 450 clients, and we have about 80 volunteers, which we need to deliver meals and also help staff members with our social support activities. I mentioned before that Orange is can be rather a cold place, a beautiful place with autumn colours and so forth. But council is a provider of services to the community, and in terms of that, in terms of our older people, we'll always maintain that service. We have a wood bank for seniors who can't afford to buy wood, so there's an option there for a wood bank. And we have, we're able to taxi vouchers if need be. We're funded for transport, and we do have 2 buses that we use. But if someone comes in and needs support in that way, we help support homeless people as well. It's all those things that council does. And so we would always maintain our services, even through financial constraints. Thank goodness Sector Support and Development was funded for another 12 months, which is great. And we're utilising options over these next 12 months, sort of to see what might eventuate with the transition to support at home into the future and what path we will take there. There will always be a path for us in supporting seniors in the community, older people in the community, as to what that might be refined and look like. It's an exciting space, sort of, however we can meet those needs. So I think that flexibility is about the necessity for volunteers and that workforce. I know providers in Orange and across the region are trying to manage workforce issues and also the funding issues as well. And either Jess or Amanda mentioned that, managing that flexibility rule, that 50% flexibility rule at the moment, to make sure that we can maintain those services is a high priority for what we're doing, especially these last few months, weeks of this year and then into next year.
Yeah. And I think what's common is how incredibly important, and the fact that council is really the closest level of government to the community, what a pivotal role you play. I'd like to just talk a little bit more about the financial sustainability issue, and maybe turn to Jess and perhaps talk a little bit about support at home and the new Aged Care Act and how that has, what that's meant for the bottom line.
Sure. So it's been there's been quite a bit of sticker shock in terms of what that's meant for us from a financial standpoint. Being able to only claim 10% for care management as opposed to the 35% we were able to claim earlier while still doing the same amount of work has been incredibly challenging. From all of our projections, if we weren't able to have enough space to grow large enough, there's no way we'd be financially viable in any sort of long-term space. And it's only that we are actually providing those services at the same time in-house. So we employ all the staff that then do all the work for the clients. That's the only way we've been able to actually maintain any sort of fiscal stability. So the initial standpoint with that has been very, very difficult to navigate. The information coming out has been sort of drip fed as well in terms of the preparedness from the department side in terms of what needed to happen and how it needed to look. When the budgets were first released, you couldn't actually see the clients' budgets. So you were told they were a level 2 and they were funded at a certain level. The clients get a letter then that states whether or not they're funded at a 60% or 100%, but we do not get that information. So unless you can actually see their budgets and see accurately what they've been given, you don't know. And so what we've ended up with at the end of this first quarter is an outstanding amount of around $10,000 of service delivery that we've provided, with the understanding that our clients had 100% funding when they did not. Which is especially troubling when the ones that didn't get all their funding were the level 5 and over, and the level 2s were funded at 100%. So the ones that very much needed the support were not, they've ended up worse off than if they'd stayed in CHSP. So some of that has been incredibly hard and very challenging to manage. We're still figuring out where to go with that from here. Some more training around those things would have been really appreciated, because, some of those things with the 60%, our initial understanding of that was it was going to be front loaded. So you got the first 60% of their budget, and they later 40% would come through for the tail end of the year, because that matched up with the amount of time that it was coming out. Unfortunately, what the reality was that you got 60% for the first quarter of the first quarter. And that can go on for 12 months before they actually get the release of full funds, depending on their level of priority. So when you've got somebody who's been categorised a level 8 and they're receiving the amount of funding that's about a level 4 or 5, it's a very big jump in terms of capacity and service delivery that you can offer. And when they need showers 5 days a week, some meals and wheels, transport, all those things, domestic assistance, it all adds up very, very quickly. And we've kept our pricing as low as possible. So we are probably the cheapest in the area. We are going to have to go up 10% in the new financial year just to try and break even, because currently we are not. So yeah, it's really tricky. We're relying quite heavily on, we get a thin market grant, which doesn't go far, and it certainly doesn't make the difference in availability and service provision, because when you've got to drive 45 minutes just to get to the client's house, and you can't charge for transport anymore, there are much bigger issues at stake that I think need to be sort of looked at with a little more rigour, because it is very much a system designed for a metro space, not a regional one. So I think as it rolls out, I have great hope that it will be something that becomes really functional for our clients, but it will very heavily depend on CHSP sticking around and being its own thing, I think, because every piece of advice we've been given is to ask for backup CHSP services to help keep these clients who have packages that aren't high enough to keep them in their home, because we've had a number of them have to go into care as a result of not having enough funding. So yeah, it's definitely a concern, and it's one we're working heavily on, and we're working a lot with Ageing Australia and other advocacy groups to make sure that the word is getting out, in terms of where the struggle is from a rural and regional perspective. We're a tiny service with not a lot of, you have to drive for 2 hours to get to a specialist. There isn't a lot of support in the area for these clients. It's a 2-year wait list to see an OT, all those sorts of things. So figuring out how to make that work when you can't put those services in place without an OT, but you can't get an OT, but they haven't got enough funding to pay for the OT, it becomes a domino effect that can become incredibly challenging and scary for the clients. So yeah, it's a hard one to navigate.
Super challenging, and certainly the rural and remote, that area of advocacy is something that local government New South Wales has, been advocating for additional funding for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just keep having to, make the same noise. I think make some noise to make the government understand that we need that funding.
Well, especially we ran out of fuel in our area a couple of times in the last couple of months, and the response was a $3,000 payout to cover all of our costs, which doesn't cover the insurance and for 2 vehicles. So it was very nice that they gave us something, but when the fuel's $3.60 a litre and we have to run diesel vehicles that are specific to the roads out here, it certainly doesn't sort of fix the issue. And, the response from government was, we'll pump up your tyres and take off your roof racks. And that's fine, but what do we do about the bull bars on the front that keep the roos from taking us out? So, there's a lot of factors.
I just maybe divert a little bit and talk a bit about community transport. Maybe ask Amanda, what sort of distances does your community transport services do, and how has the fuel crisis affected that, or has it affected that?
It has definitely affected it. However, in Tumbarumba and Tumut, we've never run out of fuel, but the problem we've got is currently in Tumbarumba, it's 60 cents more expensive for fuel than it is in Tumut, which is just an hour away. And when we're traveling for, 130 kilometers to the next nearest town, it makes the fuel bills increase significantly. I mean, our fuel has increased almost $1,000 a month. We're trying to get the volunteers, because both services operate on volunteers. So we're trying to get the volunteers to fill up when they're in the big regional centres. So when they go to Albury, which is a 2-hour drive from us, or Wagga or Canberra, we're trying to get them to fill up there so that we've got the cheaper option. But that's not always possible. So yeah, it's had a really big effect on us because of the distances we travel. I mean, I had a meeting the other day, and the median travel distance for services across the whole of New South Wales is around about 5 to 10 kilometres. Ours is sitting at between 40 and 50. And it's because of the distances we have to travel. Yes, we have smaller distances that we cover with clients who are just coming in for the shopping or to see the local doctors. But the majority of our service is away to see specialists at regional centres. And this is where the distance, the time and the cost has created a problem for us.
And Kim, what about you?
Thanks, Helen. We haven't run out of fuel in Orange. Some stations ran out of diesel, but you could always go to the next one. It got to about $3.30 a litre for diesel in Orange, and it has come down a little bit now. We're just mindful of our volunteers because they provide their time to deliver meals to our clients. And so we keep in open conversation with them about, there's a $10 run reimbursement there for fuel, if you'd like to avail of that. You sure you're okay? And they said no. So at this particular stage, they haven't said that they have taken that up, but it's there. And we're just very mindful that they are using their own vehicles to deliver those meals and giving their own time, which is very much appreciated. We're negotiating with delivery for meals. There's increases there in terms of the bulk meals coming into our service, higher delivery fees there, and our bus trips, our social support bus trips. We've got 2 buses going out with social support with our groups and also our men's group. And we'd like to take seniors around the region because they like to see around the region as well. And, they're always mindful of those increased costs there, which we just had to consume. We don't put our prices up or anything. Our fees and charges are published and exhibited 18 months in advance, sort of thing. So that's what we stick to. We just have to absorb it.
Right. Well, and obviously that could become a big issue if the fuel shortage goes on for a long time.
Yeah, definitely.
I now realise we have some questions. So the first question is, in metro regions, councils are often the provider of last resort, especially when there are complex needs. For example, someone who has comorbid mental ill health and dementia, or who is an older person with disability who is at risk of homelessness. Is this also the case in rural or regional areas? Does your council support those people whose needs are too complex for the system? Maybe Jess, that could be one for you.
Yeah. So we're first line of defence for those people, and last line of defence usually. when the other services that aren't locally based walk away, we tend to pick up and make sure that those people do not go underserved and underprotected. They're usually related to multiple people in the town, and the beauty of a small town, and I used to live in Newcastle and Sydney, like I've lived in the larger metro sort of spaces, the difference in community and how that's represented in rural towns comes across very, very differently, especially for vulnerable people. So don't get me wrong, there's definite flaws to that because everybody knows your business at all times, but it also means that if there are issues or if there's areas that need addressing, people are always looking out. I have an example of, we had a gentleman who he'd been a part of the community his whole life. He was in his late 80s and he loved to wander and he didn't want to go into care and his daughter didn't know what to do. So we were providing services for him in the home and making sure that he got to go different places, but he wouldn't stay on the property. So he would wander down highways and things with the big B double trucks going past. And every time without fail, a local would see him, pick him up, bring him back, take him to the shops, get him a coffee, have a chat, and then take him home. And that was happening every day. And it was just a round robin of whoever saw him first put their hand up sort of thing. And if they couldn't, if they were in a rush, they knew to ring us and say, hey, he's out wandering down the highway again. He's nearly made it to the duck pond. You might want to step on it and get to him before he gets any further. And that went on until it became, we had the snowstorms and that really sort of put a pin in how difficult that was. But even in that situation, his neighbours waded through knee-high snow to get to him to make sure he was warm, safe and had what he needed, in those environments. So we always make sure we have a list of vulnerable people. They can be clients or not clients, but we know who they are. We make sure RFS knows who they are. We make sure the ambulance service knows who they are. They give us permission to give them that information, and that is a formative list that the community uses, Rotary, everyone, to check on people in times of crisis, whether it's, we had fires the other week, we had snowstorms, we've had other full-on rainstorms, we've had a huge number of bigger issues. That list is utilised by everybody to make sure that everybody stays safe regardless. So it is certainly something that the council takes very seriously to ensure that every member of the community has somebody keeping an eye out from somewhere.
Such a lovely, lovely story, really, to hear, and highlights exactly, what councils do, and also in the context that councils are having to manage more and more extreme weather events.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, for some reason the office here just went black, but I will continue. So excellent. That's just such a nice story. There's just another question here. Do your councils provide all services an older person may need? Are there areas of support that older people in your area cannot access? And I guess that would go to, what do they do if there's services that they can't access? I don't know, Kim, or Amanda, whether one of you wanted to take that one.
Amanda might add some context, but I just wanted to we have council has initiated Orange to be a dementia-friendly community, and we have a dementia care relationship with the hospital, also to keep our seniors safe, we have a Centre West Region Collaborative for the prevention and abuse of older people, and that's under our sector support and development service that we do across the Centre West region. So there's those complex care needs of dementia, and those abuse, emotional and psychological. It's happening, and it needs to have referral pathways and providers to know that if they contact council, where that support can be, and which is the best way to go through. We work with the Ageing and Disability Commission to try and make sure that the person is safe, and so that they can address it as well in the appropriate manner. And we also, as I mentioned before, we do have the homelessness council, has provided relocated members of the public who are homeless in situations where they're not safe, where they have set up camp, and helped them move to a safer area. And that's the only way that council can move them on if they're considered not safe. So we move them to an area, and also we've provided sort of tents and shelter for them as well. So we look at what meal support we can provide, and look at what they need at that particular time. It's a real diverse cohort that council supports. Never 2 days the same.
That's right. And I think the three of you have very, well, lights back on, have described that fairly well. Someone has asked about, how you're dealing with, some of the confusion in the community, with all of the changes. Have you seen a sort of an increase in, your seniors coming in, wanting information, and how have you handled that, given you often don't have a lot of staff? Amanda?
I can take that one. Yeah. So we have seen an increase in the number of people visiting both of the offices. So what we've done is we've put a small pack together that just identifies some of the new changes. All of the staff are aware of these new changes, and just spending the time with the clients that we need to make sure that they fully understand. Sometimes it's quite hard. Yesterday I was working in the tumour office, and a gentleman came in and he was asking the staff member about the new changes. So she went through, but it took her around about, I'm going to say 30 minutes to get him to fully understand what she was trying to explain to him. So this is taking our time. It is something that we're not funded for. We don't get paid for that time. So we are seeing more and more and more people coming into the offices in both areas, just to get the basic information. They may get a letter from the funding bodies just to explain something, but because it's written in government language, they don't necessarily understand that. So we try and explain it in as easy language as we can. We provide them with the bright posters that we've found. So we have found OPAN are a great resource for us to be able to get the documentation from, so that we can hand that out. It's bright, it's cheery, and it's in plain English language. So, but yeah, the time frame is a big thing for us, and that, like I said, it's something we're not funded for. So it does take a considerable amount of time out of the day, especially if you get 2 or 3 clients during the day and there's only one of you in the office.
Sorry, Helen, can I just add to that too? We actually send out a newsletter every month with our activities for the coming month, and the front page is typically a bit of an editorial from me about things that are happening in the community and with support at home and with aged care. And what we try and do is break down a couple of those areas every month that we can sort of expand on a little bit, make sure the staff understand it too, so when they go out to the homes they can talk to the clients about it a little bit. But outside of that, like Amanda said, I mean, it's an hour minimum every time you need to talk to a client and try and explain it all. But if you try and give them too much information as well, it becomes overwhelming again. And so, yeah, we've seen really consistently over and over again, people that have been on aged care for years have no idea what's happening or how it's happening, or, how to make sense of it. So it's a huge amount of our time is actually spent just trying to explain a system that we're still learning ourselves, and that's still being rolled out. So it is a huge time suck for services.
Yeah, I mean, and it's certainly true that the department's put out a lot of information, but it's just, older people, they prefer face-to-face, and, you just need to, you need to adapt to what they need. So that's understandable. I just wanted to talk quickly a little bit about the new the Aged Care Act, and what what has been, maybe I can ask Kim first, what has been the most challenging thing in meeting some of the changes in relation to the new Aged Care Act? I think you might be on mute, Kim.
Sorry, thanks, Helen. Yeah, I had a list. I'm on the corner of a street, two streets here, and it gets quite noisy. So, in terms of just going back to the information for that seniors are looking for in terms of the new aged care space, we're finding as well that we're spending a lot of time explaining to some of our past clients who have moved from CHSP to a supported home. And because that relationship is there, they're coming back in and they're just asking, can you just try and help me here because we've got this information from our supported home provider, but just not sure of it. So there's still confusion, even though with the Aged Care Act, there's all the information that providers need to give clients. And I think it's just overwhelming. We're spending a lot of time trying to update our systems, our client relationship management system, a service agreement template, our care plans, our letters that go out to clients, volunteers, our associated provider agreements, our dietitian review of meals. There's all this additional governance that we're trying to accommodate. And we don't have a policy team here dedicated to community services. So our team here at Choices at Home is trying to deliver the services and manage the inquiries that come in through the front door, the referrals off the portal, and the new compliance information, and also other like brokerage as well, where we're brokering, where seniors want our services for meals to continue. So then the brokers are trying to gather all the information from us, and then for a number of brokers that are doing that, that's all the information that we're providing again over a number of, numerous times, that information again and again, which just takes a lot of time.
Right. So you would sort of summarise that as being the increased admin.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And what about Jess and Amanda?
We're certainly seeing, that is definitely increased admin. We do have a staff member that does work on policies, but she also does a bit of everything else as well. And so we are literally going through every single policy two a week and reintroducing them all, refining them, making sure that they meet and, show that we're meeting the new Act accordingly. A huge part of what's been challenging for us has been that the one thing the clients have taken away is that everything is my choice and I absolutely have final say on everything, which is we've always tried to do anyway. But it's being utilised in a way, well, I don't want those staff members. You have to give me just this one staff member for every single shift, and they get services 7 days a week. And so trying to explain that that's not an actual feasible or functional thing, nor is it healthy for you or the staff member, that has become an ongoing fight. Well, I've been told I can have everything I want the way I want it. And so it's that balancing act of saying, look, we're doing everything we can to give you what you want. However, rostering one staff member, we have to look at what's the safety of the staff as well as the safety of yourself, and that's going to build a dependency that's not safe either. And while we can certainly organise for them to come 3 days a week, we can't have them come 7 days a week because they don't just live to work for you, they have a life outside of this. And so that's actually been something that's created a genuine barrier there, which has caused a lot of friction in trying to explain that, yes, you do have final say and you can reject the service if you're not happy with what we're offering you, but it doesn't mean that we can actually break the law to give it to you because that's the way you want it to look. So that's also been quite challenging in that space.
Yeah, I'll add to that with what both of the ladies have said. I agree with everything. All the additional paperwork, all the new service agreements. And when you have, 700 clients or 1,000 clients, That's a lot of people to organise service agreements to go through. So all the staff have been trained. We're currently doing all the reviews at the moment. We're introducing all the new service agreements, but it all takes time. So it can't be done just on this date. It doesn't happen just on a set date. So that is very challenging. For me, one of the things out of the new act was the responsible persons part of it. So it's been taken to council, so council are aware of this. So we're currently working on that as well, and trying to organise something so that the councillors are fully aware of what's going on. And again, what Jess just said about your clients, it is client-centred, the service is client-centred, but the emphasis has been that it is their choice. And although we try and do that, we can't always fulfill. We can't have 50 clients wanting 9 o'clock on a Monday morning because we've only got 8 care workers, so it doesn't work. And like Jess just said, we've got a client who has gone through all of my staff. No, I don't really like her. She's got brown hair, or I don't like her because, she always comes 5 minutes early, or so she's found an excuse not to like everybody, but now we've got no more care workers to provide. So, it's trying to negotiate, with clients and trying to fit in so that everybody gets the service that they want, although we can't always do it in the exact same way that they would request. So, yeah, it has been difficult in a lot of areas.
I've just got one more question because we're shortly going to be out of time. So very quickly, if you had 5 minutes with the aged care minister, each of you, what would you say to him? I'll start with Kim.
Keep the CHSP as a standalone program as it is, and if it is to change that, then there'd be some continued funding model, a hybrid funding model, so that those indirect costs could be maintained.
Jess?
I would be definitely saying CHSP needs to be a standalone project that has block funding attached with also a fee-for-service component, so that you can actually grow and you can choose the areas of service that fit your community, while also not being beholden to the support at home network, which is already overworked and underfunded.
Amanda?
I think I would reiterate exactly what both of the ladies have said. CHSP does need to be its own standalone programme. It needs to continue as block funded. It's much easier that way, and more people are able to access the service. Like Jess said, support at home is a difficult area to work in at the moment, and I have personally had support at home clients receive a package and then reject that because they are better off on the CHSP programme because they're only on a small level. So yeah, we need to keep the CHSP programme on its own as a standalone programme.
Okay, well, thank you so much, ladies. I guess before we close, I just wanted to reflect on a couple of things. I think you've done a fantastic job in highlighting the absolutely pivotal role that councils play and how, what are the similarities in delivering services in a rural area and what are some of the differences. The story that Jess told about the man that went walkabout, I'll remember. And, how that is really highlights what, councils do, particularly in the rural area. And I hope that government, will consider your wish for the CHSP to remain as an entry-level program. So I'd just like to thank Kim, firstly. Thanks again for joining us today and sharing your insights. And then thank you to Jess, and good luck with your journey back to Walker. I know you've still got quite a distance to go, and thank you again so much for joining us today. And lastly, to Amanda, thank you so much, and really hope you have a lovely evening, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And then thank you to all of us joining today. I understand this session will be available, the recording. Yep, just like to thank my SSD partners and to you all again for joining today. Thanks very much.